like to call the meeting to order. Is the time approximately 10 after 10? Let's start, please, with the roll call. I'll start with Commissioner Smith.
Commissioner William Smith.
Commissioner Julie Smith.
Commissioner Thompson.
Commissioner Hernandez.
Commissioner Alexander.
Terry Tracy, counsel to the Parole Board.
Tina Stanford, Chairwoman.
Commissioner Milton Johnson.
Commissioner Gail Hallidan.
Commissioner Edward Sharkey.
Commissioner Ludlow.
Commissioner Alovich.
Commissioner Capola.
Thank you. And Commissioner Ferguson is excused absent. Commissioner Prango. As well. All right, thank you. Has everyone had an opportunity to review the minutes of April 21st, 2014? One correction has been noted, brought to my attention, to add Commissioner Ludlow to the commissioners who were excused absent for that date.
Yes, please.
And the meeting concluded, my recollection is 12:30. Certainly the public portion of the meeting. And that's at the end. Are there any other corrections, modifications that are recommended? Is there a motion to accept the minutes with the necessary corrections?
I move to accept the minutes.
Commissioner Alexander
As
has
correct.
moved the minutes as corrected.
Second.
Commissioner Capola is second. Any questions, discussion? All in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any abstentions?
I abstain since I was not here.
Commissioner Hernandez abstains as she was excused absence for that meeting. Okay, the motion is carried. Any others? Okay. Old business. The Office of Children and Family Services Parole Preparation Video Project. I know that they have done some filming, and Commissioner Smith, you participated in that, as did you, Commissioner Johnson.
Yes.
Correct? So I'd just like you two to give me your impressions of where they're at with their project at this point.
All right. Well, Commissioner Johnson may talk about, he had gone in the week before. Commissioner Ferguson and myself went in April 24th. We went to the Corporate Woods studio where they had taken about an hour and 15 minutes to tape each of us. They asked just pretty much general questions, and they're preparing two videos. One of those videos would be for when the residents first come into the facilities, kind of give them an idea of what they ought to be doing. We encouraged, at least I did see some of what Commissioner Ferguson had done. We encouraged obviously things like complying with the rules and getting their education, therapeutic programs. And then a second video is being made for them to see a little bit before their actual parole hearing, so that they have some understanding as to the process itself. So it went very well. It probably will be, it was a month ago, and it probably will be fairly shortly that they'll be presenting you with the beginnings of editing the versions, and then for your approval.
Thank you, Commissioner Smith. Commissioner Johnson, anything you'd like to add?
And the genesis of the project is not to educate the residents as to how to win a parole board or beat the parole board, but instead to talk about those things that the parole board commissioners will review, and so that they have an understanding of it at the time, at the beginning of their incarceration, right through the parole board, and they're not learning about things after the fact.
Thank you, Commissioner Johnson. Is there any other questions about this project that anyone wants to raise? Any other discussion? Okay, thank you. Then we'll move forward. On to the SORC and Deputy Superintendent training that two of our commissioners have been involved in since the outset. I guess you guys started early last fall.
Yes, we started last October. And so far we've done 5 trainings for 6 of the hubs. There have been SORCs and deputy superintendents of programs that have attended. They in turn then go back and train the ORCs. We had a video that we did at the beginning. Because there's been so many changes to the law and directives and policy, we're going to need to add additions to the video. So that's in the works. We have a total of 2 more trainings left. One is for North Country for the Clinton Hub, which we'll be doing on June 16th. And then we have the Buffalo Hub, Rochester, Wendy, and all the Buffalo facilities that we'll be doing hopefully in July. And Chair, I had sent you an email on that we can discuss. So we are hoping to end all of our trainings this summer. After it's done, then the SORCs will, whichever ORCs have not been trained yet, will be trained, and we'll take it from there. The responses have been pretty good to the training. Most of the hubs, the SORCs and DEPA programs have been very engaged, asking good questions and comments at the end. So it's been a pretty good experience, both just from a learning standpoint for them, but also in terms of letting them know that we're committed to their success and that we're one team now that we're merged.
Thank you. I've said this before, and I'll say it again. I had the opportunity to view the video that had been prepared originally, and I find the training to be excellent. The paperwork alone is gold, because the ORCs and the staff that work with the parole board can really use it whenever they have boards to remind themselves of what our expectation is in terms of the quality of the paperwork, standardizing the paperwork across the state, as well as the process. So I thank you for your participation in that and helping them to all do and view the work the same way across the state.
You're welcome. Former Commissioner Arena and Joanne Nigro have done excellent job in doing the PowerPoint and giving all the handouts as part of the package. And as you said, the handouts are golden because each ORC can actually use that as they prepare the inmate status report.
Thank you. The next
Could we get the paperwork emailed to us so we know what they're
It's a pretty nice
looking
size
at?
packet, but yes.
It's a big packet, but what I can do is I can have them make up a packet for each board member, and I can bring it to the next meeting so everyone has what's been handed out.
Thank you. And there probably may have been some updates too from what was originally sent out
Yes.
some time ago. Thank you. The next item is on our meetings and our schedule. After our last board meeting, I reached out to the director of Zone 5 to see if they could accommodate us on some Mondays. And I was told that June, October, November, and December, we can do Mondays as opposed to Thursday meetings. Now, I assume you'd still prefer an afternoon meeting to an early morning meeting on a Monday. So right now we're looking at 1 o'clock. Our meetings have been running fairly quickly. The last meeting was less than a half-hour public portion. This meeting seems to be going at a fairly nice pace. Of course, we can't always predict from month to month what our executive session meeting will look like. It depends on full board case reviews that we have to consider and other business appropriate for executive session. But even with a pretty good schedule of cases to review, that might not take more than a half hour. So we're looking at approximately an hour. And if we started at 1, I figured that would give everyone time to get here and then get you out early enough to continue on your way to wherever you're working your boards that week. Does that sound acceptable? Does anybody want to lobby for 12 o'clock start or for the Mondays?
Just a clarification, Chair, you said June, October, November, and December, I believe. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
And we will also, by necessity, have to publish a new public notice. So when the public notice is prepared, I'll make sure that each of you has a copy of that as well, so that you'll see which months will be here on a Monday, which months will be here on a Thursday, and the times for both. They'll be consistent. So if we said 1 o'clock on Mondays, it will be 1 o'clock on all of those Mondays. And then if we modify the time for Thursday, then that will be the time for each Thursday.
10 a.m.?
Well, we could talk about that too. That was going to be my next item. 10 o'clock seemed to me to be a sensible time to start, knowing that people were still on the road. And again, in the interest of trying to get you back to your home offices for office duty before dark. But if you'd like to start the Thursdays a little bit later, now's the time to let me know. Okay.
Back to the Monday issue.
Monday.
I have a strong preference that we have the meetings on Monday. I think that's a much more efficient use of time and is more compatible with our weekly travel. So for future reference, if you could consider that, I think that would be very advisable.
Okay, and I appreciate that. And that was what the discussion was about at last month's meeting. But for this year, at least for 2012, this will be the schedule. We will be here on Mondays.
2014.
I'm sorry, 2014. We will be here on Mondays for the months that I've discussed this morning, and then Thursdays for the rest, for the balance of this year. And that is in consideration of the owners of the space as well, because this is a training academy and they have a very busy training schedule, particularly in the summer, and they use this space for training. So maybe in 2015 we can revisit. Thank you. So Mondays, 1 o'clock, Thursdays, 10 o'clock. Everybody's okay with that? Any other discussion? Okay, and we will get the notice out and everyone will have the dates and times. Okay, new business. The only item that I have for you is just to bring you up to date with recent hiring that has been going on in our board, or on behalf of our board. Our counsel, Terry Tracy, and I just did an interview of another potential attorney, so that we expect to be bringing in two new attorneys to help with the administrative appeals, and hopefully their training will be acceptable, and their training will commence, and they will be a full complement to our legal staff by the beginning of summer. And we completed a round of interviews for the supervising administrative law judge position, working primarily out of Rikers in the city, working out of the New York City office on 40th Street, down in New York City a couple of weeks ago, and we are wrapping up the selection for that position. And then the next position of importance to all of us will be our executive assistant to the board. So at this time, I'd like to have a little discussion. Yeah. Please help me out. That position, when it was last posted, had nothing really for qualifications. And of course, that makes the pool of applicants potentially very broad. But since my time with the board, I've realized that job requires some very specific skills, soft skills as well as technical skills, and certainly public service skills and public customer service skills, because they interact with the public as well as the rest of our administrative staff on a daily basis, as well as the facilities. So I'm interested to hear one or two suggestions from as many of you who want to participate in the dialogue today about what you think are important qualifications, because I actually want to write up a new qualification for the position, so that when it's posted for this round of hiring, and perhaps for future rounds of hiring, the position actually has some qualifications attached to it that we could agree are useful for the board's business. So we can start the discussion with anyone who has something to say. Of course, you don't have to give me a laundry list of things, but if you can think of one or two things that you think are the most important skills or experience for this person to have, certainly I'll take that into consideration in writing up the qualification and in the interview process. I'll start with Commissioner William Smith at the end and then move on to Commissioner Julie Smith.
The one thing that I think is important is confidentiality. It should be mentioned. There's many other skills that might be needed, but I think that's pretty critical to the position.
Thank you. Commissioner Julie Smith.
I believe you should have a strong foundation in legal work. I've come from some background, either worked in a law office, prior law enforcement. I think you need to have some connection to the legal system to understand what we deal with.
Criminal justice specifically, or any legal setting?
I think criminal justice specific, because that's largely the nature of what that person's going to have to see it.
Thank you. Any other commissioners to my left? Commissioner Hernandez?
I found the last 3 people that I have worked with that their parole experience was critical. They understood. They had worked in facilities. They had worked as a parole officer. And I found that to be very useful.
Thank you. Anyone else to my left?
I think you said it, but strong administrative skills is really necessary, management skills, and as you said, good soft skills is critical. Hard to put that in a job spec, I know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's good temperament, good tone with people on the phone.
Right.
Some patience is required, I think.
Understanding that you're a public servant.
Yes. Okay, I'm going to move to my right. I'll start at the end with Commissioner Capola, and then we'll move in.
I think obviously we would all agree strong administrative skills. I think a comprehensive understanding of computers, because obviously you have to navigate the antiquated system that we often use, looking at PARMIS and FPMS and things like that, and are very important so that the person, when a phone call is put into that person, they don't have to make 3 phone calls. They can punch it right in themselves, look it up, and say, here it is. But something that I think is critical, is critical to all of us, because we all travel. For instance, next week is Monday, it's a holiday. I know many of us will be. I'll be traveling on Monday, it's a holiday. I think the expectations of the next assistant should be very forthcoming from you. I think on call, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Doesn't mean you have to answer a phone call, but the point is, at least have a voicemail so that when you see in your work phone that you got 3 calls from commissioners, there must be a problem. We've had issues where we've been stuck, people have been broken down on the road, we've had problems with boards, somebody's gotten sick, somebody's, parents have gotten ill, things have happened, and that person needs to be available like you are, we all call you, so that arrangements can be made on the road. We shouldn't be in our cars pulling over on the thruway, sending emails, trying to figure out. You should be able to make a call to that person. So I think the expectations of, if you take this job, understand that you work for a whole bunch of people. You're going to be getting calls, sometimes on a Sunday, it might be important. You need to be able to respond. And I think that's really important. If the person doesn't want that, then maybe this isn't the job for them. But we're on call too. We don't get those calls most of the time, but we travel day and night. And sometimes we need help. Commissioner Smith was broken down on the thruway. She was stuck. We've all been broken down on the thruway, I think. So I just think the expectations of that person, I think, I would hope that you put that very strongly in any interview. If you don't want that, and you don't want calls from all these people, and they should say so now. And definitely some expectation of when you're available or how to be reached and things like that. And then lastly, I'm not too sure for me that I would think somebody who has a law enforcement background would be critical, but DOCS is a complicated system. What we do is complicated. So somebody with that background could be extremely helpful. They won't have to be trained as much. If they did come from the facility, somebody who's already been in the system, things like that. But it's a difficult mix to have the soft skills and the technical skills at the same time. And I think that there's people out there that probably already work, with us or, within docs that would be very good. But again, I think the one thing that they need to be told is this is different. This isn't 8 to 4. There's a lot more, that you're going to be counted on. Anything from calling in, AAA or whoever we have to call for a car repair. ARI, or ink for computers, for printers, or somebody, whatever, supplies. That's the go-to person. That's what I've always thought. And if I'm wrong, some of the commissioners who have been here longer, but I always thought that person was the go-to person for your needs, and then they would take care of it one way or the other, because we're on the road.
That's how it used to be. That was the way it was
Lester
when we
and
first
others in the
started.
past.
When I first started, that's how it was. So.
Yeah, because we shouldn't call Jessica and call this person, call that person, call it. You should have a focal person. Look, I'm calling you. This is what I need. I don't care how we get it or what we do, but we need to have this taken care of. Can you please handle it? And then we can go on with our work or travel or whatever. And then, like I said, pulling over on the side of the road, trying to reach people, getting phone numbers, things like that. We need that focal person. I mean, I think it's critical to what we do.
Yes, thank you very much. Commissioner.
Relevant to that point, a knowledge of geography. This is a big state. Once you travel around it, you get to know it. And if there's going to be a switch in a board, we're going to pull somebody from one spot, put that person to another. We want it to be geographically sensible and practical. And I think that connects with Mark's point, and it's very important. You've got to have a sense of distance, the time to travel that distance, and what's practical to fit into the change. Very important.
What I've come to learn too in working with the executive assistant on the schedule and schedule changes is account for the particular facilities matters too. Because where we happen to be short-staffed any particular week because of vacations or illness or emergencies, if that is the emergency that necessitates the last-minute change, understanding the nature of the boards in terms of what's routine for that board and in terms of the speed of the board or the counts that exist there, the difficulty of the cases plays into the decision where you might need to have a 2-person board as opposed to 3. So sometimes you're shifting more than just 1 to 1, but sometime in between to try to make sure you have that balance.
Yes, very important. That plays into the mix very importantly.
So they need to get that. They need to understand, learn it from, they may learn it from us, or if they come from the facility, they may already have a sense of it.
The quantity and the quality of the cases that are characteristic of each location, and they do vary. And some locations deserve and necessitate greater time to conclude that board, and that has to be factored as well.
So some knowledge of that is helpful. Commissioner Elovich.
Just adding to what Commissioner Julie Smith said before, and I also agree with all the comments that I've heard, but I think having a knowledge of parole specifically and docs is very important, because if they're not familiar with the facilities, the workings of parole, the workings of Department of Corrections, it's going to take them a significant amount of time to get up to speed on just learning the language and learning the workings of the agency. So I think it's preferable to look for people that already have that experience if we can find qualified people that have that.
For example, when you talk about our board and our commissioners, you need to have 5 years, at least 5 years of experience in one of several disciplines. Would you think it might be appropriate for me to set a certain number, like at least 2 years, at least 3 years, more?
Yes.
Yes, I think
What
absolutely.
would you think would be the minimum if you were to recommend?
I mean, we have a lot of SORCs out there that have 20, 30 years experience.
True.
So I would say over 10 years.
Really?
Because I think the more experienced, seasoned, whether they're with Department of Corrections or with parole, they've been through it. After 10 years, you really have a very good knowledge of the agency.
Okay.
So my recommendation would be minimum of 5, but preferable if they have more.
All right. Anybody else want to speak to that particular point?
Well, on that particular point, I would say some people have multiple years' experience, maybe as an SORC or whatever the title was before, but they may not, those years of experience may not be associated with parole or parole board functions per se. So I think we would want to kind of narrow that into not just they've been an employee for 30 years.
At docs, or
Right.
But
or
what,
or
what
the former
specific
division.
type of
Right.
experience they have, that's a good point.
I think the civil service titles so often say a combination of training and experience, that equates to what we're looking for, and I think that that's something that way in there.
I think that similar to many civil service exams, you can put a fair amount of mix in the qualifications that A, B, or A and B together on mix. On most civil service exams, there's always a little leeway because you don't want to be too narrow. I agree with what Lisa said, but at the same time, we've seen some people who I can name one or two, but I won't, that have actually I thought were parole in the past, but they've caught on so well that they appeared to be former parole staff, and they weren't. They were counselors in the facility. And so I think we want to be careful that we want to preclude anybody or exclude anybody who already has shown that, look, they get it and they're really good at it. And yet it's just a coincidence that they have only been here since the merger because actually they were counselors before. But there have been a couple people that you'd be hard-pressed to say that they weren't parole staff before because they caught on so quickly and they've proven that this is what they like and they're actually doing it the right way and they're attentive to our concerns. There's a couple, and then there are some long-term parole people who actually transition from docs to parole, and so I just think that we're going to wind up finding that the most qualified people are probably people that already work in the system or with us, and it would probably be easier for especially you because who's going to train them? I mean, some of these people could walk in the office, get a password and a fob, and you really won't have to do anything because they were already going to know. And like Kevin said, that's critical too, especially late at night when we have a family emergency and somebody's off, is that there's a huge difference. I'd rather do a 2-member board in Utica with 50 cases than have to do a 2-member board in Fishkill with 30 because it's just so much more time consuming. And the dynamics of that, and that's where that person needs to understand it and say, this isn't a wise move. Like Fishkill should always be a 3-member board, no matter what.
Yeah.
Some of those facilities, when you have cases that are that big. And I think that our candidate is already here, just has to be decided and picked. You agree? There's some that would fill that void.
And I agree with you. I mean, they don't necessarily need to be a former parole officer. They could be someone that worked at the Department of Corrections and transitioned into being an SORC or an ORC and is doing very well in that capacity.
Yes. So I realize what you're suggesting, and I have seen it too in civil service postings, where it will be that mix. It will offer this or that or mixture to come up with a total sum of years of experience and training. Okay. Any other thoughts from the right side of the table?
I just want to caution us, and I'm hearing the mix. That sounds good because the environment now is not what the environment was. I don't know what the environment was before, but being in the docs environment, I've seen people challenge at how does docs do things because parole did things a certain way, and now the mechanisms have expanded, whether to the negative or to the positive. The point is it's changed, and whoever we get would need to be able to operate within the new environment. I know that transition is a very delicate thing. So I just caution us in the environment that we're actually operating in.
And because we work with the law and the law is a fluid, dynamic thing, it needs to be somebody who, to your point, can expand their perspective and expand their skills to meet the changing needs, whatever they might be. New directives and directives that we will issue, because that's a part of our work that I have not yet taken up. we actually have to update our directives and our policy since the merger. And so hopefully, maybe even beginning with our next meeting, we'll be starting to vote on confirming or either modifying previous policies from the days when we were a part of the division of parole. If nothing else, just to make sure that the paperwork is up to date, and that if someone was to need to see our documentation for the purposes of accreditation or otherwise, that it's got the right title on it, and it really speaks to what our process is today as opposed to maybe 10 years ago. Anything else? Anyone else?
Yes, I have some notes here. Okay. I agree with a lot of stuff that was said. I just read off some of this list I have here. A good communicator, ability to liaison and represent the parole board well, background or experience with the parole board functions, understanding parole and the SORC atmosphere, computer skills, understanding the New York State docs, parole, and parole board functions, ability to not only manage the administrative functions of the board, but also the ability to manage some of the utility work that was mentioned also. Someone who has the sort of experience that has led them to be successful in an environment with multiple agendas. This environment, and with the multiple commissioners and multiple personalities, someone needs to be able to understand those personalities and not be crushed or bruised in the process of trying to be helpful. Someone who has managed multiple personnel, someone with a successful leadership background possibly. Someone who is organized enough to find time for internal quality control.
Chair, I also would like to add, as someone who has worked with accreditation for the Board of Parole, that individuals assist with that aspect of what we do.
And high ethics and integrity.
Which lends itself then to the issue of confidentiality that
Exactly.
Commissioner Smith mentioned.
Yeah. Thank you. And that everything has been excellent. All the recommendations have been excellent. I'll try to synthesize these all into a good qualifications that we're seeking. And it is important to remember that the person should have supervisory skills. In fact, when that position is filled, they will be the liaison and the de facto supervisor for all of our administrative staff. The one person that we have in Buffalo, the ladies in the city office, as well as the staff here in Albany. So thank you all. And if you have any other thoughts, please shoot me an email between now and hopefully the end of next week. I'll have something put together for Human Resources so that they can create our posting. And I'll let you know when our posting is up and when it closes in case people are interested and approach you with questions about the position.
Chairwoman, may I ask a question?
Yes, please.
Being new to the board, I myself don't even know where we have staff. It's interesting that you said that there was somebody there, somebody that I had no idea. I know about NARS because I see NARS, but it's interesting. I have never seen an organizational chart and don't know myself where there's staff. So when I'm someplace in a different office, I'm alone, I don't know where the support staff is currently. So do we have anything like that?
I can certainly give you or any other board member a copy of our organizational chart so you can see
I didn't even know
exactly the positions in the three offices, because they're concentrated in the three offices, Buffalo, Albany, and New York City. But of course we have commissioners who have their offices in other offices, primarily parole offices in a couple of other parts of the state. We don't really have administrative staff there though.
Right.
But from what I understand and my experience is that the parole staff, the community supervision staff, are very helpful to our commissioners who sit primarily in other offices, and the bureau chiefs have made space available and their staff, and they really are very helpful to us wherever we are.
But I didn't realize we had direct staff.
Yes.
In addition, in certain locations. I was totally unaware of that.
Yes. So it's good to know. And good to know who they are. So that when you happen to be traveling to that location for boards or needed assistance, good to know who your people are and their contact information. So I'll make sure that you get that and anybody else that needs it. Okay, thank you very much. All right. If there's no other new business, I see none, then we'll move on to correspondence, announcements, and invitations. I want to introduce to some, and to others that I have had a new secretary join me. I'm very excited about the fact to have another competent body in our administrative staff to help us with our office workings. And she comes to us from a long career in public service, which includes the former Division of Parole. And it's Talissa Freeman Ruffin. And Talissa, would you please her last stint was with Governor's Council's office, and they relied on her heavily, and that's because she's so excellent. She started on Monday, which was my first travel day for the board this week, and so I was only able to spend a few moments with her. But by the time I got back to the office today, things are looking different. Let's just put it to you like that. I asked her to take a look at our files, our personnel files, the files on each of us, the files that were around in the various spaces, and to see if she would think to reconfigure them in some more secure fashion or more orderly fashion. And I'm told that she and Jessica and Lorraine have been hustling and moving and reconfiguring, and it kind of almost looks like a different space today, but I'm sure much more orderly and organized space. So I'm very thankful to have her on board, and she will also be a help to all of us. And I'm sure you'll find that to be the case. Certainly while we are in between and without an executive assistant to the board, but even beyond that point, I'm sure she will continue to be an asset that all of us will appreciate having. So I just wanted to welcome her. Also, we have a change of staffing, a significant change of staffing, in that the commissioner to my right, Milton D. Johnson, is leaving the board after it will be exactly 1 year of excellent service to go on to a wonderful new position. And I just wanted to take this opportunity to thank him for that year of service and to what he's added to our boards. Commissioner Johnson came on board with myself, Commissioner Julie Smith, and Commissioner Gail Hallerden as new commissioners last June. And so as of June 20th of 2014, he will have completed 1 year of service to the state and the Board of Parole and the Department of Corrections and Community Supervision. And it's been a good year. It's been a very good year. I think as of this week, I think I've worked now on panels with everyone. I've had the opportunity to work with Commissioner Johnson on a couple of panels. I still have to get Julie Smith, but I think I've got you coming up in the schedule.
Sometime, yeah.
I think we're either together in June or July, or maybe even August. So then I can say I will have had a chance to work with everybody. But it really is interesting to see the different styles and the different approaches to interviewing and to the process and to the deliberative process that people take. And every panel is different because of that. You know, you can have two of the same people from 1 month to the next, but if you're at a different facility with one other person injected into the mix, it's a different balance. I think we all work very well together. I've been nothing but impressed with the professionalism and the work ethic of everyone, and I'm particularly thankful again for the year of service that Commissioner Johnson has given us, and the addition that he has made to the board will be missed, and it will be hard to replace. But in light of the year of service, we all chipped in, and following your wonderful prototype that you, as our special events coordinator, put together for our former executive assistant. We stuck with that prototype because we liked it, and we figured you liked it too, since you designed it. And we got you this plaque, and it's got, and I'll pass it around so that folks can see it. But it's got the former New York State Division of Parole logo. It's got the New York State Department of Corrections and Community Supervision logo, the Excelsior State logo in the middle, and it says presented to Milton D. Johnson, Commissioner, in appreciation for your dedicated service to the New York State Department of Corrections and Community Supervision, Board of Parole, June 20th, 2013 to June 20th, 2014.
Very good.
Thank you. And now I don't know who we're going to get to take pictures, because you guys are going to have to start filling in, because you were the one always snapping impromptu pictures. Our resident photographer. Anything you'd like to say?
Sure, I would like to say thank you very much. It's been great. I've worked with every commissioner here, and those that are not here. It's been an outstanding experience. I didn't really have a full understanding as to how important the mission was for the Board of Parole, and how much this particular New York State road crew drives around the state, does a lot of things. I know for sure that a lot of folks in law enforcement and a lot of people in the community have no idea how important it is that this position is to their personal and public safety, and it's an outstanding experience for me, having been in law enforcement prior. I wish everybody here the best of luck and continued success in your careers. I will always be available to the board. I really and truly do mean this. I consider you guys family. We've had the challenges of getting to and from locations and making some really tough decisions about the offenders, the community, and I think this board does a good job, as best a job as can be done by human beings that have to make these tough calls. Thank you very much, Chairwoman, for your leadership, and for all of you commissioners, your mentorship and everything that you've done for me. Thank you. And please allow me one more thank you, and thank you to the staff and the support and legal, Mr. Tracy, and all of your counsel, and keeping us straight. Thank you.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Good luck to you.
Good luck.
Did you do anything about the frequent flyer miles for Amex? You know, the blackout dates that they have?
Sure. I'll give you a 1-800 number.
Okay. We do have, I don't have any other correspondence or announcements. Does anyone else have anything else that they want to announce at this time? Do you have any birthdays to celebrate or anything?
If I can, I hate to go back. Can we revisit the schedule? I just wanted to put one other thing in that we talked about last month that I don't think was brought up this month. When you did mention the schedule, we did talk about sometimes if there was no necessity to have a meeting.
Yes.
So I just wanted to put that out there too, that even though those are the dates,
Yes.
that it's possible that meetings may be canceled.
That is true.
There's not casework to do or anything.
That is true. And please believe that if there are opportunities to not meet because we don't have full board case reviews or other matters to discuss in executive session or items of significance to vote on during the public session, that those meetings will be canceled, and due notice given to you and to the public so that you can make your travel arrangements and overnight accommodation arrangements as appropriate. Okay? All right, well, at this time, I'd like to entertain a motion to go into executive session, and following executive session, if there's no other public business, to adjourn the meeting.
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Coppola. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, second by Commissioner Hallerden. Any more discussion or questions?
Do we have a vote?
All in favor? Aye. Any nays? Any abstentions? Thank you so much. We're into executive session.